a star was born.
He did not do that.
There is really a reason to believe. We'll end the year and cap it off all next on Roundtable. Gerald, and the gang is all here. Tim Roye, the voice of the Warriors. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Bob.
Jim Barnett, I have no voice. So you guys are going to carry me for this final show.
One last time together, guys.
Well, I tell you, this season, interesting in that so many competitive games, so many bright spots, so much fine play, and Jim, just not enough W's at the end.
Yeah, you finally end up with a 21-61 record. After an 8-15 record, Dave Cowens is let go as coach, and then you bring in Brian Winters, and different combinations. The chemistry never really clicked together, and then the young guys brought us all back to reality and a lot of hope.
Tim, I think it's one of those things where people say, you know, compared to the last couple of years, how the Warriors different. I'll be honest, after those 2 injury-plagued years, you didn't know what to say at the end of these shows. I think now with the rookies, there's finally a core unit that's starting to build with the team.
Yeah, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak, now with the Warriors, because of the fact that Golden State has young pieces that they can build around. They did find out some very important things this year. One is that they do have rookie backcourt stars and potential stars in Gilbert and Jason Richardson. The other thing they found out, I think, is that this team really needs to play, I think, more of an up-tempo style. This team needs to go baseline to baseline. It's got young legs, guys, and it needs to run.
Well, it's one of those things. We do all the games, but you try to tell people, they played a lot of close games. Trust us. How many close games? How about 40? Final 3 minutes of the game within 5 and 9-31. To me, Jim, that is still a staggering stat. That's half your year that are essentially wire jobs, yet you win only 9.
You know, human beings are creatures of habits, and when you get into a bad habit, it's difficult to break, even a losing cycle like that. And conversely, you can turn it around, and once you start winning, because there's that fine line between the winning and the losing, that fine line makes all the difference in the world. And the Warriors, a young team, inexperienced like that, never got over the hump. And that's why I think they're that close to turning it around. I never really lost my edge and hope for this club because I could see what will develop, that will come to pass in the future. And to me, this was not that difficult a season to announce it for.
Well, you know, it's all kind of interlocked right now when you talk about the youth and the fact that the youth makes mistakes. They didn't handle the ball very well in crunch time. They didn't have that go-to player. I think Jason Richardson can be that go-to player. They need to protect the ball a little bit better, and they just simply need to get older. They need to get more experience, and they got some of that experience this year.
Well, I think that's the thing. Those 31 close losses, a lot of the same mistakes. Key turnovers, not hitting a perimeter shot, not coming up with a defensive stop. I like your identity, Tim, in that they're going up and down now offensively, but when it came time to turn the screws defensively, the young team didn't have it.
No, they didn't have that mentality of getting that big stop when you need to get that stop. Too many easy baskets, too many breakdowns mentally. This team needs to get better in terms of its overall focus, its overall knowledge of defense, Jim. They need to know which players they have to stop on the floor, which shooters they have to, stay on, how to dig down deep and to force a team into a tough shot in the late going.
You know, the syndrome as you come in as a rookie in the league, everybody thinks you have to be a great offensive player to play in the NBA, and defense is secondary. You finally figure it out that defense does win games. And also as rookies, you're not going to get calls. You know, the Warriors had to rely on rookies, and a case in point, that Dallas game, going on the road late in the season, I thought they had a chance to win this game. Very, very positive. Then Richardson drives in on Edward Nahara. They call a charge. He makes the basket. The Warriors would have gone up with about 30 seconds to go. They end up losing that game. There were several plays like that down the stretch, too. So not only do they don't finish the games themselves, they don't get the calls, and their margin of error is very slim to play through those calls.
Well, we saw the game, certainly looking ahead, optimistic because of the good play of the young players, but we sat down with Brian Winters and Gary St. Jean and asked them about the Warriors' present and, more importantly, the Warriors' future.
I've always felt that winning is, it's an evolution. It's a process. It's not something that just happens overnight. And we do have 3 good young rookies on our team. Antawn's had a solid year. Our 2 centers have been pretty solid for the most part, So I think there is a future for the Warriors, and that's what I look at. I look at the development of our team and something to look forward that in the future you have a decent nucleus to build around and hopefully add some players too.
But I think that the roster is in as good a shape as it's been in quite some time. And we know we're going to get some significant help in the draft. And I believe we're going to, because of the talent of the players, maybe they didn't mesh the way we wanted to, but the talent of the players, there'll be abilities to maybe make a trade or two.
Well, there will be trades, but Tim, number 1 or number 2 pick, I think the Warriors would be happy. How about Yao Ming, the 7'5" Chinese center?
Well, he's a 7'5" sensation. Everybody's talking about Yao Ming. They say he's sort of a combination between a tall, skinny Shaq with ability, or maybe you'd look at Jason Williams, the outstanding guard from Duke. He's neither a point, neither a shooting guard, but he's just a very, very good basketball player, a very dynamic basketball player. So if the Warriors win their draft pick this year, they're going to have options. And as always, you have to take the best available player regardless of position.
When I think of the center there, it's you can't coach height. I mean, that's a gift.
There you go.
And there are a lot more smaller players running around out there. It'd be very difficult to pass up on him. Now, is Gilbert Arenas, we'll talk about him later on, the quintessential point guard? Not exactly. However, I'll tell you what, he's pretty serviceable, and he's only going to get better.
Well, I think the nice thing, at least 1 or 2, there's quality players in this draft, maybe even Mike Dunleavy if he were to declare as well. Just no 4 or 5 for the Warriors. Yeah. Keep 1, 2, or 3 in the lottery. Well, the Warriors in the lottery last year didn't go 1, 2, or 3. They went to number 5, but the Bay Area has flipped over Jason Richardson. That's a pick the Warriors will never regret.
I know I could do a back and slip. That's something new.
Today's Warriors Spotlight, brought to you by Ford, features the excitement and excellence of Jason Richardson's rookie year.
With the 5th pick in the 2001 NBA Draft, the Golden State Warriors select Jason Richardson from Michigan State University.
Taken with the 5th selection in the NBA's annual draft, a summer of innocence was soon replaced by the responsibilities of the starting lineup and nightly battles against the best the NBA has to offer, an adjustment that can't be taught, only experienced.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of decision making that's different from in the NBA and in Michigan State. In the NBA, it's more the coaches give you a little bit more freedom to do things and take it to the hole or pass it or drive and kick. And I've been watching film myself, and I see where I pass up a lot of shots, and I think sometimes I hurt my teammates by not, taking the shots, and I think I'll get a little bit more aggressive in the coming games.
Despite some team struggles and numerous close losses, Richardson displayed a variety of skills on a nightly basis, remaining energized as evidenced over his breakout All-Star weekend in Philadelphia.
Ball on the floor to Battier. Gets the outlet to Parker. Parker sets up Richardson. A reverse dunk going in. Did a 360.
He's just warming up.
Rookie game MVP by day, JR's national fame came at night.
I'm not sure which one of those Dominique Wilkins dunks he picked, but here he goes to the hoop. Yeah, the windmill. Nicely done. He'll get a high score. Richardson is going to try it for the 3rd time.
He's looking at Darius Miles.
Needs at least a 45. Up in the air, off the court. He's got it. He jammed it. He jammed it.
No, he didn't. No, he did not do that. Jay Rich. JD. Duo. He just did it.
I think we know who the champion is this year.
What a year for the kid from Saginaw. His basketball resume now includes a collegiate national title, a rookie game MVP, and a slam dunk championship. And most importantly, the type of talent and energy needed to help the Warriors rebuild and for the fans to believe again.
You believe we get to watch this guy hopefully for about 14 more years? Jason Richardson, could he have had a better rookie year?
There are so many dunks coming right at me now. I feel like I'm on a poster somewhere, It's like, he's just unbelievable.
You forgot how good it was.
Oh,
I mean, you look at that videotape of that, and you see how spectacular this young man is. But you know what? He's more than just an athlete with great hops.
Yeah.
He expanded his game the second half of the season. That's what I'm so excited about, because he desires to be a basketball player. And he's just impressed me in so many facets of the game.
Well, how about the Sacramento game? He gets a rookie-high 40, only 2 free throws. In Milwaukee, 35, no free throws. I think, Jim, once he starts taking the ball to the basket, getting a little more respect, as you talked about in the first segment, this is a guy who's going to shoot 6-8 free throws a night.
Yes, and to be a great player in this league, you have to be committed and dedicated. And that's the other thing inside Jason Richardson. You have to have it with the mind and the heart, and he has both of those ingredients. That's what impresses me.
And you know what? If he gets that mid-range jumper down to where he can hit that consistently, then people are going to have to come out and crowd him.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to allow him to get to the rim a lot easier, because once he gets that, he can take one dribble from the wing and get right to the paint. And that's, he can be a real special player in terms of being an all-around offensive player. And I truly think that Jason is going to end up next year being the go-to guy. When the Warriors need a basket, they're going to go to Jason.
Yeah. I think his ball handling is better than people would have thought, because he also had some decent assist totals. He'd make the extra pass. He's able to create off the dribble. But, Jim, you've said a number of times his shooting is better than you ever would have imagined.
Well, his overall game is a lot better than I ever expected. Certainly his ball handling can be improved there, and I think working on a move and a first step to the basket. But his shooting, he shot 32 to 33% from three-point range. And they said he was going to be an inconsistent outside shooter. I quite frankly thought as a rookie he was a better outside shooter than Mitch Richmond when he was a rookie with the Golden State Warriors. I just think that we haven't even seen the beginning of where Jason Richardson will end up. I mean, we've seen the beginning, but we don't know how far he will go. And he is only going to set the limitations on himself.
And, even the last game of the year against the Clippers, I saw something in Jason that we didn't see early in the year, some knowledge about his opponents. He was playing Eric Piakowski of the Clippers, a known gunner-type shooter guy. You have to crowd him, and Jason was right up on him throughout the game. And to me, he's learning. He's learning personnel around the league, and that's going to help him expand his game on the other side of the floor, on the defensive end.
Well, the other thing, too, is what I liked, same thing the last week against Sacramento, some nastiness. Because Doug Christie had limited him to 6 points. He comes back and drops 40 on maybe the best defensive off guard in the league. And he has that smile, and he's a nice guy. Jason has a little cruelty a little bit to his game, and you need that in this league.
Yes, and he has pride and competitive juices. Yeah, he was 3 of 15 a week before. Then he comes out and hits his first 7 shots in that game and 18 points in the first quarter.
Let's face it, guys, when you go back to last June, and people ask us all the time, when are the Warriors going to turn it around? Well, I think the bottom was last June. Last June, when the Warriors drafted Jason, along with Gilbert Arenas and Troy Murphy, I think that's when the Warriors started their climb back up.
And a perfect lead to our next segment. Jason Richardson, certainly part of the future, but there are other building blocks and other positives from this year. We'll talk about them on the Roundtable.
Years from now, this season for the Warriors will be remembered for the 320-year-olds that brought back that spark and innocence to basketball by the Bay. The appreciation of just making it in the league.
Even on draft day, you're not really thinking about it. But when you're actually at a game in front of people, you're seeing Kobe, Shaq on the sideline, you're like, I'm really in an NBA game. I can't believe it.
Gilbert Arenas' preseason boast of starting by mid-year was dismissed as youthful enthusiasm. By year-end, nobody was laughing. Now with 4, with 3, Gilbert the length to lay it in and draw the foul. Gilbert inside. What a clever finish around the stair bench. Donald got a piece of that. Arenas high for the rebound. Gilbert off to the races again.
He knows where everybody is.
What a feed to Hughes, and reverses it in. On a team with so many rookies, there were plenty of first-time NBA memories. Troy Murphy was one of only 2 Warriors to play in all 82 games. But it was his first jumper that he will never forget.
I'd say the first basket I scored in the NBA against Portland, up at Portland, the first shot I took was probably my favorite moment this year. It was something I'll never forget.
Even dunking over Dale Davis?
Yeah, I'll remember that first basket. I'll remember the way it felt and everything like that, yeah.
The first week for Murphy in the NBA, a lot of cheap shots, a lot of challenges, and he answered those. And Tim, the dunk over Dale Davis, to me, one of the highlights of the year.
Well, he came in the league with that big R in his chest for a rookie, okay? And as a big guy, they're going to test him. They're going to see what they can do with him. They're going to push him, bang him, move him around. That move was Troy's answer to them. Like, I'm not going to sit here and let you guys just shove me around. And I think it showed that he has the type of heart, that nastiness that you like, and the type of physicality that he's going to need to play his position.
Also the skill level, too, Jim. When you talk about Murphy's shooting ability at 6'10", I think next year he took only 7 shots or more in 24 out of 82 games. He's going to be a shooter down the road.
Yeah, he had sporadic minutes this year as far as playing in all of those games. What I like about Troy Murphy is he's got the #1 skill, and that is his ability to shoot the basketball. I like people that can shoot the ball. He can do, so many things, a variety of things. I think he has to get a little bit stronger next year and, understand that it's an 82-game schedule, and you have to get a little more mentally tough to combat and compete every night.
The things you mentioned, the shooting part of it, you come into the league as a shooter. You can get better as a shooter, but you have to be a shooter first, I think.
Yeah.
And then good hands, very important for a big guy. The other things you can teach, you can get bigger. He can learn to defend better at the box. So I think, Troy Murphy may not have the instant success, say, that Jason and Gilbert had this year, but I think it's going to be very nice and very interesting to see what kind of a player he is at the end of next year, at the end of the year beyond that.
Well, Gilbert Arenas had us shaking our heads really from the whole second half of the year. Where did this guy come from? Is he really this good? He may be, Jim.
Well, Gilbert Arenas possesses terrific basketball instincts. First of all, explosive first step, ability to get to the basket. So he can create for others, but he is more of a scoring point guard, if you will. Yes, he can pass it in the open court. Particularly in the open court, he will look for other players. Once he gets to a half court, he's not like Bobby Sura, where he's going to break down the defense and create for others. Because when he breaks down the defense, all of a sudden, with that explosive last step, Tim, he finds himself at the rim. And not many people have that ability to go in the air, show the ball, bring it back, find a little space, and have the ability to get it up on the glass without getting it blocked. And also, he's put down some thunderous dunks on some bigger people because of his ability to get to the rim.
See, Bob, Jim will appreciate this because he drove in the Autobahn last summer in Germany. So Gilbert's got that little extra gear, just puts it up in the 5th gear, and just bang, he gets right to the rim. I think that the other part about this, when we get asked about this, why didn't he play at the beginning of the year? Well, if you saw him in training camp, he was very overwhelmed, I think, with the NBA game. He was 19 going on 15 as far as an NBA player goes. The best thing that happened to Gilbert as far as his development was sitting and watching and figuring out how he needed to play in the league.
Second half for Gilbert Arenas, but more quietly, a good second half for Antawn Jamison, because I thought this is the year he became a professional. More attention to defense. He still has ways to go there. Offensively, Jim, very consistent, and you used the word a lot, efficiency. Antawn didn't need to shoot 30 times, finishes with a season-high 35 in the last win against the Clippers. I thought Antawn Jamison, a little glimpse of where he may be going the next couple years.
Well, I think finally the NBA game slowed down for Antawn, and he got the feel of that. And night in and night out. Could counter with an outside shot, and he did improve. He's 32% from three-point range, but he's best in the open court. And when you play to a player's strengths, minimize his weaknesses, he is going to show bigger stats. And he had fewer shots the second half of the season and scored more points, limiting, the bad shots that he's, want to take every now and then. But he does have to improve defensively with his footwork.
Well, there's no doubt about that. But I think every time we talk about Antawn, we say, well, he can't do this, he can't do that. Well, he comes back a little bit better. Even his defense was better in the second half of the season. So if you add that, maybe some better ball handling skills, I think Antawn has a chance to really take his game a little bit higher than maybe we all, suspected he could. Now, the other part about this is interesting, I think, is that when the Warriors went with the young guards and went up-tempo, Antoine's game became more efficient because he was finishing more fast breaks, getting more early offense, and he wasn't laboring so much to score points.
Well, Eric Dampier, kind of an up-and-down year, but Adonal Foyle, if he's not the best backup center in the league, Adonal has a role, Tim, where I think he deserves to play. How many minutes will be up to whoever coaches the Warriors next year, but Adonal Foyle, the shot blocking cannot be denied anymore.
And I think he's going to be very good because the Warriors will have guards who will put pressure on the ball, and you need somebody back there to protect the basket. And you know what? Adonal is by far a much better offensive player than I ever thought he could ever become. He has really done a nice job with his offensive game. If he improves his foul shooting, I think he'll be a nice player.
Undersized as he is at about 6'8" to 6'9", best shot blocker in the league. I don't mind him at all defensively in there protecting the basket like that. His offensive game expanded it this year, but it will be limited in the future. But you know what? The Warriors will have plenty of scorers. I never would let him get away from the club, quite frankly. I love Adonal Foyle, and his work ethic is non-pariah. I mean, you know, just a great example.
And Danny Fortune had a nice year rebounding the basketball, finishes in the top five. Stayed healthy, so that's a big plus for Danny. Now he needs to look at himself and take his game a little bit higher and not force so many things on the offensive end. Let the game flow to him and accept his role as a rebounder and a big guy. If he can do that, he'll be a much more, I think, important player for the Warriors.
I think maybe the biggest surprise all year, other than Gilbert Arenas, how about the year Bobby Sura had, Jim? I mean, to me, I didn't think he could play this well, take this bench role, and really flourish. Sura was terrific the last 2 months of the year.
Started the first 5 games of the season. Then they brought in Jason Richardson. Pouted a little bit. Didn't get along with Dave Cowens. Chemistry wasn't right. And all of a sudden, he took it upon himself to say, you know what? I'm going to make myself a better basketball player. Worked on his outside shot. Finally became a pretty good three-point shooter, but mainly finds people in a half-court situation and always plays tough defense.
Well, we're not ready for the season to end, but the show has to end. We'll come back with some final thoughts, wrap up the year, never leave you without the plays of the week as we continue on Roundtable.
I owe David a lot in my professional career, as does Jim and as does Bob, and he will be missed. He was a man of passion and a man of vision.
He just was a guy that gave of himself, always made you better. And, of course, he always said, if you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
David, he definitely be missed. Hired Tim, hired me, and this is the reason why we have the Roundtable. Yep. And he would be happy with this Warrior season in terms of the play and the future and not with the wins. We know we'll be pulling for him and thinking about him as we continue with Warrior basketball. We never leave you without the plays of the week, the final week of the season. And McDonald's always seemed to bring us a lot of Gilbert Arenas, Jim, the last 2 months of the year.
Well, the crossover dribble and down over Donyell Marshall. What a tremendous tomahawk dunk.
And Gilbert at age 20 against the 40-year-old John Stockton, one of the best plays of the season.
Well, you see his speed as he goes down the court, protects the basketball, gets the basket, and the foul.
It seemed that whenever the Warriors missed inside, there were people to clean it up on the rebounding. Jason Richardson, sometimes he defies description.
Well, a little crowd there, you come up with a steal. Out in the open court, and picks up and cleans up after Larry Hughes.
Richardson and a lot of highlights, a lot of young players. For Jim, Tim, I'm Bob. We'll see you next year on the Roundtable.